Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting at the Round Lake Area Board of Education on Monday, March 17th, 2025 in the Round Lake High School Library. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
All right, and Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we'll need a motion to approve the agenda as listed.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. We have an approved agenda. Thank you everyone for attending this evening. And first up on that agenda is special recognition and presentation and our high school February Athletes of the Month. To kick that off, I will turn it over to our athletic director, Mr. Karolzak.
Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here as always. As often happens this time of year, both of our athletes of the month come from our boys and girls wrestling programs. First, from our girls wrestling program, this is a first-time recipient and one that I'm personally extremely proud of the growth that this young lady has made, not only as a competitor, but as a leader in the program, and just if you had told her at the beginning of the season she'd be up here getting this award tonight, I don't know that she would have believed you. So really excited to congratulate our female February Athlete of the Month from girls wrestling, Brianna Perez. Here to say some really nice things about Brianna is head coach Ender Conkia.
Maybe we can switch them around.
All right, she is coming. We're going to call timeout on that. February Female Athlete of the Month, Brianna Perez.
Bree ended her season 31-16, joining our 30-win club, with 25 pins and all 31 of her wins coming by bonus points, meaning every time she won, she separated from her opponent. She earned both All-County and All-Conference honors this season, too. Bree also added her name to the history books, tying to become our first girls wrestling regional champion, won in our very own home gym, pinning her way through the tournament. Bree won the Panther Pride Award for effort for our team, as with her participation in a later tech campus time, she regularly would come to practice about a half hour after our usual start time. In turn, Bree was always determined to make the most out of the time she was able to be there, and constantly found new gears to push both herself and her teammates. Between braiding her hair for her teammates at every event or showing younger athletes how to battle through confidence struggles, Bree has had a great contribution since the birth of our program, and I'm proud to present your Female Athlete of the Month, Brianna Perez.
See that one.
I feel like this guy has won this award more often than he hasn't. but it's kind of hard to deny after the month that he had. Our February male athlete of the month from the boys wrestling program is once again William Cole. Here to recognize Will is head coach Ken Filas.
It's kind of sad that this is the last time I get to do this for this guy. Invariably, Will has been a swath of destruction across the state of Illinois for the last 3 years. He was 4-4 as a freshman, but after that, he racked up 126 more wins to bring him to 130 for his career, bringing him to second on our all-time list for men's wrestling. This past February was really special. He was the second ever finalist for Round Lake, tying the best ever finish as a state runner-up. He also was our second time, or he was our first time, two-time sectional champion for boys wrestling. All in told, he finished his Panther career with 130 wins against 22 losses, 76 falls, which, let's be honest, if people didn't want to forfeit to him so often, would probably be more. Just a great kid in and out of the classroom. He finished his career with, or not his career, but he finished this season with a 50-4 record, and which is really kind of cool because last year we had Jason Gilly, who was the previous single season record holder, come in and talk to everybody, and he looked at Will and he goes, "Why not 50?" Well, Will got 50. So honestly, I can't be any prouder than of him. He's a great kid in and out of the classroom. We're gonna miss his infectious smile every day coming to practice. And on last note, he did for this past weekend compete in the Illinois-Indiana All-Star Duel, where he pinned the third placer from Indiana in the second period. So for one last time I get to present for him, we'll call.
All right, next up, we still have a lot more of this to go, which is awesome. This is what we love to see. Next up are our state qualifiers, and this is across the board for all of our state qualifiers district-wide. So we'll start with Ms. Cacciatore.
Good evening. It is my honor to recognize some of our talented choir and speech state qualifiers who have demonstrated exceptional skill and dedication in their respective competitions, earning the opportunity to represent the high school at the state level. So first up, we're going to have Mr. Bobby Olson and the Panther Voices.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having us here tonight. So I want to talk a little bit about Panther Voices' performance at the All-State Music Conference, which we call IMEC. So kind of in two parts. First of all, it's pretty rare that you have two choirs in a row that are of that caliber to make it, because one year you have to audition and you have to bring the next year's group. And so we had a great choir last year and also a great choir this year. So it's an application process that starts the previous year. You have to submit recordings and recommendation letters. And we were selected as one of only about 7 high school choirs to perform for the state conference. I believe it's the first time we've had an ensemble from Round Lake chosen to perform in the school's history, which is really cool. So that was the process. Preparing for our presentation, which was a demonstration clinic, was really amazing because I don't think I've ever had a harder working group of students, along with being talented. We had all kinds of college clinicians come in and work with them. And then when we went down to Peoria at the end of January, they sang their hearts out. They talked about what the music and what our classroom activities meant to them. We had a number of student speakers, as well as presenting a full-length concert to a room of about 400 choir directors, which is by far the most intimidating crowd because everybody knows every note of what you're singing. And they were very impressed with what the kids did. A number said it was the best thing they heard all weekend. And so I'm just so proud of these kids for all the work that they did and how they represented the school. So yeah, just thank you for recognizing Panther Voices at your meeting. And this is most of them that could make it tonight, so not the whole group. So Panther Voices and all of our choirs are really anchored by a lot of talented kids. Amongst those, we had 5 students selected to the all-district choir, and from there they select the top about 5% of singers from this region to be in the all-state choir. And this year, Carlos Vilches was selected as part of the Honors All-State Choir, which means that he's probably one of the best bass 2s in the state. He spent the weekend also at the All-State Conference learning music from a college clinician, and then they present at the concluding concert. So Carlos has had a wonderful career at Round Lake, and it was wonderful to see him represent us so well at the state conference as an individual. So.
Next up, we have the Round Lake High School speech coach and a familiar face.
So Carlos also went to speech for state. His piece was an original comedy that he wrote himself. It was titled The Toe Tickling Bandit, and it was as funny as it sounds. So he had a great season. He made it to the final round in every tournament that we competed in during the regular season. And then he placed first in our regional competition at Grant, which led to him competing at the sectionals in Freeport. He tied for 3rd there and gets this medal we just got, so exciting. And then from there we went to Peoria to compete on a Friday and Saturday for state, and just a great experience overall. He delivered 2 amazing performances, so we're really proud of all that he did this season and making it to state.
All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to bring Daniel Theobald up from our Round Lake Area Exchange Club to introduce our Round Lake Area Exchange Club Youth of the Month.
I thought maybe he was going to do the wrestlers for me. We also were fortunate enough to have 3 of our wrestlers qualify for the state finals this year. On the boys' side, William Cole. And on the girls' side, Ireland McCain and Riley Conkiao. So I'll invite those 3 up here now, and Coach Filas and Coach Conkiao will recognize them.
See, you wanted to do it again.
Just a couple things. Will made it downstate for his 3rd time this year. He is the 3rd male Panther to make it down 3 times. Mikey Kukla did that back in the early 90s. It's like 92 to 94. And then Alejandro Cordova actually last year became the 2nd one to do it. So he is the 3rd male athlete to make it down 3 times. I know someone's made it one more time. We'll get to her in a second. But no, he, again, 2-time sectional champ, first ever boy to do that. I think first Panther wrestler to do that, and 2-time regional champ as well. He's just had a fantastic career, and this is just a very great way to cap it off. So. Yeah.
Alrighty, so Riley and Ireland were our 2 state qualifiers. Starting off with Riley, she qualified for state for the 3rd time. She finished 4th all-state, the highest finish for Round Lake in the girls wrestling state tournament. Along the way, she also avenged the loss from the prior year state tournament. Ireland becomes our first 4-time state qualifier. She won 1 match at the state tournament, avenging a loss from prior years, despite nearly breaking her nose the week before in practice. She pushed through a lot of pain, gave her best effort in the next couple weeks, and had a solid tournament regardless. Ireland will be ending her career with 100 and... Sorry. I believe 119 wins? Yes. 119 wins, which for any of our girls finishing their career. She also finished the season with 43 wins? 43 wins. Riley finished the season with 45. Yes, 45. The highest for our single season, I believe?
Yes. She's one short of 100 too.
Yes, Riley's also 1 short of 100. She's excited for her first match next year. But these are our 2 girls' state qualifiers for this year.
All right, and I think next up are our middle school award winners.
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here to talk to you guys about McGee Middle School and our wrestling season. We had a phenomenal season, breaking tons of records. We wound up sending 5 individuals to state this year, and we had multiple sectional first place winners. I'd like to invite Kevin Coffey up here to talk about our athletes and their amazing season.
I figured there was some sort of protocol here. Now, I've been told I'm a little long-winded by my wrestlers and friends and by my principal, so I told her I would cut down the 2-hour speech to an hour, so, I'm just totally kidding. But I did decide to write things down to make sure that I got everyone covered, and I stay on time, so it's pretty sad. We had a really successful season. As a team, we had 65 wrestlers finish the season, and I want to mention just a couple quick things about our season because it was just a really cool season. We ended up hosting the conference tournament, and we hosted it at Round Lake High School, and all of the teams were super impressed with our facilities and the smoothness of that tournament, so definitely want to thank Ethan and Round Lake High School for helping us do that. Also, one thing to mention, we saw a couple of lady state qualifiers up here. I want to let you know that of those 65 wrestlers, 17 of those were girls who finished the season. We could have filled almost every weight class except 215 and heavy with the girls lineup. That's how many girls we had out. So we actually hosted one of the first girls dual meets. We attended 2 girls tournaments, and we won the most medals at all those girls tournaments. So that was a really cool accomplishment as a team as well. So the McGee wrestling program as a whole took 2nd out of 8 at the regional, 5th out of 31 at the sectional, and we had 5 state qualifiers, as Brittany mentioned. So the most exciting part of that is of the 5 wrestlers who qualified, 4 of them did so by battling through what we call the blood round. All 4 of them had lost their semifinal matches, but were in the next round was do or die. That's why they call it the blood round. And a lot of coaches were like, oh man, hope you get 1 or 2 out. And for us to get 4 out of 4 was just insane. I lost hair from it. My heart rate went way up. It was pretty crazy time. So it was just a really cool story how all of them got there. So I look forward to talking to you about each one of them. And actually, would they come on up here, please, gentlemen? All right, so first we're going to talk about our only underclassman up here, our 7th grader, Adrian Valdez. So I'd like him to step forward. So again, he's a 7th grader, and he qualified for state at 119. He won his regional this year, and he also qualified by beating a wrestler who had beaten him for a majority of the season. So he ended up beating him at the conference tournament and the regional. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry, Tom. That's the Round Lake coach. I was waiting for that. Give me something. But anyway, so like I said, we're very excited to get him back next year. He showed a lot of leadership qualities. He's been putting in a lot of work since he got here. And again, he fought through a really, really tough bracket at 119, and he finished in the top 16 for AA. Next up, we have Ethan. Give him a wave, Ethan. Where's Ethan at? There he is. Okay, so Ethan Montes de Oca also had a really tough bracket at 126. He was also a regional champion, and he took 3rd at the sectional. Ethan is a great leader who just was a really strong team player. He decided that he was going to go down a weight this season. He was pretty close to the weight below, and he decided to do that so that more of his teammates could get into the lineup. And I do believe that qualifying for state was his reward for that selflessness and dedication. So we're very proud of Ethan for not only his wrestling and for qualifying for state, but also his character. That says a lot about him as a leader too. So we're very proud of his efforts. Did a great job downstate. Also finished top 16 for AA. So great job, Ethan. Next up is Tony Bonilla, who qualified at 215, and him and Avant were both at 215. And during the season, Tony was kind of stuck behind Avant and trying to crack that lineup, but his dedication totally paid off because they both qualified at their weight, which is really cool. So Tony took 2nd at the regional, only to Avant, and he had an amazing comeback run at sectionals. He faced an opponent in the first round that he was up by quite a few points, but Tony ended up just some great perseverance, caught the kid in the last 10 seconds and pinned him, and then he won his next few matches, and then actually had to face that kid again, and he was very nervous about that because he's like, oh, I only caught him in the last minute. I'm not sure I just told him, like, Tony, prove to him you deserve it. And so he went out there and just dominated that kid the second time to punch his ticket to state, which was really cool. So he truly earned his place downstate. And at state, while he lost his first match, he actually won an amazing match with a pin, which helped our team score out. So that qualified him for day 2. And then he also won another match the second day, but he ended up losing his last match there. But that put him in the top 10 for AA at downstate. So that's pretty cool. So we're very proud of Tony as well. Nice job, Tony. All right. So I'm going to talk about Avant and Ivan because they did something pretty historical. I've been asking Phyllis, I've been digging through the archives, if you will, and I cannot find another instance in recent team history where two wrestlers at downstate made the podium. So to make the podium, you have to place in the top 6, which means you earn a medal. And again, making the podium is a really big deal downstate. So for two wrestlers to make it the same year was a pretty historic thing. So this is Avant Cole, brother to William Cole. So you saw him. So Avant is, he won his regional and he took 3rd at the sectional. And Avant is just a fighter. Like, he's just a fighter. And you know, he won a huge overtime match to qualify for state. Gave me a heart attack. I had to go outside for a minute after that, didn't I? Okay. And again, he was the 4th of 4 wrestlers to qualify through the blood round. So in addition, Avant won 2 matches on day 1. So that locked him in to make the podium. And he actually, that forced me to shave a mustache. So that was a thing. So I'm a less bearded man before you because, you know, I had to deal with Avant, so that happened. But Avant also, again, he finished his state run with a 6th place finish, made the podium, and definitely earned that medal. So give it up for Avant. He did a wonderful job. All right. So the last wrestler I want to talk about is Ivan Alejandre. So here's Ivan. He was our 275-pound wrestler. So Ivan won conference, regionals, and sectionals, as well as 3 out of 4 matches downstate, all with pins, if I recall. Did I get that right? Yeah, I thought, okay, I was going to check in with you earlier, but here we are. So Ivan is the first McGee wrestler, to my knowledge, in the last 27 years. And again, I'll keep researching to double check that. But in 27 years, there's no other wrestler from McGee who's made the state finals, so made the championship match. So Ivan was in the ISA championship match and took 2nd place at 275 pounds. He was undefeated all season. And his only loss came from the returning state champion from last year. And so they had a really tough battle downstate. And we've just been overall impressed with Ivan's improvement in the classroom, around the building, and also on the mat, because to go up against a returning state champion, having only started wrestling 15 months ago, says a lot about the kind of determination and effort Ivan put in. So, again, I think I've already said that. So, but again, I think it was a huge accomplishment that we had 2 wrestlers make the podium. We took 46th out of the 170 something teams that were there. And overall, it was just a really exciting season. We're very proud of our McGee wrestlers. And, you know, Tom and I have some big plans for the future of both of our programs to help out the high school. So thank you for your time, and thanks for acknowledging our wrestlers. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say that this is quite the honor to witness all of this recognition that's going on. So, and even more proud, Round Lake Middle School principal, to introduce Julian Gomez. I will introduce Coach Brown in just a second. Well, I guess I just did. But what I want to say real quick is watching Julian this year, seeing him on the mat, seeing him in practice, seeing him at the state tournament. He has a tremendous amount of leadership, tremendous amount of integrity, and I'm excited for him when he gets to the high school. I wish he was actually a 7th grader so I can have him one more year, but anyway, I'd like to introduce head coach Tom Brown and talk a little bit about Julian Gomez.
Hi guys, I'm new to the program for Round Lake Middle. If you didn't know, I was the previous assistant coach at McGee. So it's been a real honor to step up in the shoes of Daniel Rico, take over the program. I want to talk about Julian Gomez. He was one of the few eighth graders that returned. Thank you. He's one of the few eighth graders that returned from last year. The kid really put in a lot of work. He really helped me transition our wrestlers to a new head coach, a new program, so he's really helpful with that. He really helped with the onboarding program, with helping new wrestlers learn techniques, so I couldn't do it without him. He led stretches, he managed the teams while we were away for duels, so he took up a lot of huge leadership roles. So his season actually started off with a wrestle-off, where he had to wrestle for the 135 position. He lost that match. And despite that, he still showed up every day for practice. He made his weight class at 135, as opposed to his other kid who beat him could not. The reason I'm bringing this up is because for regionals, he ended up wrestling that same teammate, beat him by more than 8 points. So he's really come a long way wrestling-wise. There wasn't a tournament he didn't place at, so he's really put in a lot of effort. So he ended up with a record of 18 wins to 10 losses. Conference, he was seeded top 3. Okay, so he was expected to place 3rd for conference. He ended up having an injury, and we made the difficult decision to keep him out of the rest of the tournament so he could heal up for regionals. That being said, he still showed up to practice every day, ready to learn, even when he couldn't be on the mats. So after having not been able to place a conference, he placed 2nd in regionals, okay? And then he was the only wrestler from Round Lake Middle to make it to the championship semifinal match before he lost. That being said, he dropped down to the blood round, which is the do or die to make it to state. He won that match, placed top 4th, and then he went down to state for 135, placing top 16 in state. So I know the high school coaches are asking about him, and there's a lot of good stuff we're looking forward to. Okay, and we hope to see great things from him. All right, thank you for your time.
I think I got it right this time. I'd like to welcome Daniel Theobald from the Round Lake Area Exchange Club to honor our Youth of the Month.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing us to be here tonight to present the Youth of the Month Award. My name's Danielle Theobald, and I'm here representing the Round Lake Area Exchange Club. As you know, the Exchange Club is one of the oldest organizations, with youth programming being one of our 4 pillars of service. The Youth of the Month is a cornerstone of Round Lake Exchange Club's youth programming. The Youth of the Month Award honors outstanding students who have exhibited excellence in academics, leadership, and service. Students submit an essay with the theme selected by the National Exchange Club, and you'll be hearing our honoree, Haiti Saucedo, read her essay in a few minutes. This year's theme is especially meaningful, asking our youth. In a world that is constantly changing and ever evolving, our youth play critical roles in shaping the future of their communities. From advocating to leading, young people are taking charge and making a significant impact. How have you personally contributed to society, and how do you envision your future in community service?
Danielle, can you hold the mic down, the button in?
Okay. It is my pleasure to introduce this month's Student of the Month, Haiti Saucedo, a senior at Round Lake High School. Haiti is an outstanding student, maintaining a 4.61 GPA while excelling in athletics and leadership. She is a dedicated member of the cross-country, basketball, soccer, and flag football teams, serving as captain in both basketball and soccer. Beyond her achievements, Haiti is passionate about helping others, aspiring to become a teacher who inspires students as her teachers have inspired her. She gives back through community service, young athletes, and volunteering at events like Wisconsin Basketball Special Olympics. Her hard work, leadership, and compassion make her truly deserving of this recognition. Welcoming Haiti Saucedo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Round Lake Exchange Club and to my counselor, Ms. Nickling. All right. As our community is constantly changing, the youth have the ability to shape it through leadership, service, and mentorship. Throughout my time at Round Lake High School, I've taken good advantage of the resources and opportunities that have shaped me into who I am today. I have then been able to contribute to my community in a way that I hope will have a lasting impact. Through National Honor Society, Panther Crew, and College Ambassadors, I've been able to highlight the importance of education, while my involvement in sports has allowed me to inspire young athletes and further school spirit. Playing sports at Round Lake High School has taught me what it's like to be a part of something bigger than myself. My basketball coach introduced me to the phrase, "Tradition starts here," and has stuck with me ever since. The lessons, skills, pride, and friendships that have come along with being an athlete have motivated me to encourage younger kids to continue playing sports as they get older. As a senior, I know I wish I would have started playing earlier, which is why I have taken part in various sports camps over the past couple of years. I've been able to demonstrate and teach skills to younger girls for sports such as basketball, flag football, and soccer. Over the summers, I was able to build connections with younger players and share my stories about the sports that I grew to love. By doing these things, I hope to instill the sense of pride and joy that comes with being a part of Round Lake sports and show them that sports are so much more than just winning or losing, because the long-lasting friendships and lessons make it worthwhile. Basketball to me was a significant part of my high school career, and as I got older, I started thinking of ways that I could stay connected to the sport. My coach suggested that I become a referee, and I'm glad she did. I became a licensed official and started refereeing Junior Panther games, where I was able to see many of the girls I had spent some time mentoring over the summer. I was happy to see that the connections I had built held up over time and that I had made an impact on these girls' lives. Apart from being a referee for Junior Panthers, I volunteered at the Wisconsin Special Olympics basketball tournament. The Special Olympics has become very important to me because it has shown me how sports can bring people together regardless of background or ability. I have been part of this event for 2 years now, and I am definitely looking forward to continuing my involvement, not only because I get to learn from others, but also because of the continuous determination from these athletes that remind me of my passion for basketball. In addition to impacting my community through athletics, I have also been involved with contributing to the importance of academics at Round Lake High School. Through Panther Crew and College Ambassadors, I've been able to share my love for learning with others. Taking part in freshman orientation as a junior and senior gave me the chance to guide incoming students during the transition to high school. Using my previous experiences, I was able to give advice and words of encouragement to make this important milestone even just a little bit easier. With my knowledge, I've already been able to talk with incoming seniors and answer their questions about the post-secondary process through College Ambassadors. I hope to continue being a source of support within this topic and help highlight the importance of having a plan for life after high school. As for me, I want to continue to contribute to my community even after high school. I am currently planning on majoring in elementary education at Illinois State University. I will probably take the skills that I have learned as a Panther and use them as a Redbird at ISU. I know there are plenty of organizations for me to join on campus and will definitely try to come back during the summer to stay involved in route. One of my long-term goals is possibly coming back to District 116 and giving back to my community as a teacher. For right now, I aim to spend my last couple months at Round Lake High School with nothing but positivity and appreciation for this environment to show younger students that being from Round Lake is something to be proud of. Thank you.
On behalf of the Round Lake Area Exchange Club, I'd like to present this award to Haiti Salcedo, the Youth of the Month.
Okay, next up is communications to the board. Looks like BPAC is not here, so we're going to skip over that and we're going to go straight to the FY26 budget assumptions.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight to present our FY26 budget assumptions. We have a board memo that goes through, and I'm going to go through the lines and give you a little explanation. But in line 8, we have our fund balance that was allocated for our summer projects was increased to include our $328,000 for the RTU unit at Ellis. We have line 9 that has transfer of funds from FY26 or from FY25 to 26, $800,000 in reserve use. This was reduced to allow for the curriculum adoption that is now being covered with grant funds. We have line 16, increased health care benefits, that was reduced to $250,000 due to better than anticipated rates. We have our line 37, which is our transition outplacement administrator, which added about $141,000. This is being added while we also have line number 41 that is a reduction, and this position will include that those duties. We have line 38, the Director of Finance Administrator, added $150,000. Line 39, which is our multilingual intake assessment specialist, adding $85,000. We have our line 40, Behavior Interventionists, which added about $250,000. These positions are being added to support our behavioral issues over at the elementary level, especially in primary grades. We have line 41, Outplacement Specialist, which was a reduction of $76,000. This is that line that is offsetting the increased administrator in line 37. We have line 42, which is a reduction in force of $164,000. This constitutes a reduction of art and math. We have line 43, the increase of teaching assistants to about $333,000. These are anticipated to be covered with grant funds. And we have line 44, which is a reduction of our custodial services. This is a position that is historically hard to fill, and we are actually lumping that into line 45 to create a full-time custodial position over at the EEC to address needs there. We have line 46, our curriculum and instruction specialist reduction. This reduction is about $82,000, but we are reducing that in addition to adding the board certified behavioral analyst. While these look like this may be a cost neutral expense, it does have a stipend position that will be brought to the board in April to address the additional stipend for that board certified behavioral analyst. Line 56, our curriculum adoption was reduced to $399,000, and that is because we have line 57 where our curriculum adoption was mostly grant funded to the tune of $996,000. We have line 58 that is adding the Apple lease that is before the board tonight for consideration, which will help increase our technology upgrades. We have line 62, which is our anticipated expenditures that we increased by that $328,000 again for that RTU unit over at Ellis Elementary.
Just want to, Ms. Negrati McGinley will also provide some context on finance, but I just want to reiterate to the board, unless there are mandated requests as a result of end of the year special ed annual reviews or students exiting or needing to stay in actually our multilingual program or something that is unanticipated or unforeseen, this is it. This is the staffing. If you remember last year, we had a first wave and then we just, frankly, we didn't do a good enough job of kind of making sure we saw everything. So the team did a very diligent job of making sure that we brought you everything. I also want to reiterate the art and math reductions. Kids aren't foregoing art. They're not losing programming. And the high school students can get the math classes that they need. This is part of our normal staffing process. We look at sectioning, we look at enrollment, and then we make RIFs when the class sizes, when it's prudent to do so. The other thing I want to highlight is this was a conscious decision. I want to thank the curriculum department for finding the grant. Well, they didn't find the grant money. We were given the grant money, but as a result of that, the amount that we were taking from this year's budget, and again, this is not for accounting, it's for the purpose of just general understanding and transferring it over to help with this year's budget, we reduced that by $400,000. That's line 9, and we put it back into fund balance. So we just feel good about our budget position. I think the team's done a really good job. Our class sizes are manageable. We don't anticipate any surprises, but again, we'll be, if something comes up, we'll let you know. So I just wanted to, these have been fully and completely vetted with the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. So as Dr. Mendoza said, this was part of finance. Just a few other things to highlight. They did speak to some of the questions or things that were brought up by Finance Committee, specifically like the stipend associated with the salary and the art, elementary and high school math class reduction. There are quite a few positions being added here with the multilingual intake assessment specialist, behavior interventionist. As we know, we're kind of short on space, but just making sure that there's place for this additional staff to come into the district, and they have addressed that. And then again, just in regards to the custodian with that reduction, but making that a whole or additional person at the EEC, again, with the addition of the EEC, there's a little more needs and obviously some growth that has happened at that building where there really is the need for that custodian. Other than that, between all that's been said, that's been covered, and as mentioned, this has been vetted through the Finance Committee.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you very much. And we will now step to obsolete technology equipment. Mr. Kozik.
Good evening. This is our 4th year. We are offering our students an opportunity to purchase their 4-year-old obsolete iPad. Consistent with previous practice, our device specialist, Samantha Chapman, reached out to our recycling partners and received multiple market price proposals. The highest of those proposals received priced our 8th generation iPad at $60. Only our 4th, 8th, and 12th grade students are eligible for buyback this year. That is the price we are setting for the buyback program. Additionally, in addition to the students having an opportunity to buy devices back, we also have an opportunity for our students to buy devices. We also priced 7th generation iPads, which we have and are consistent with the quality we expect to be able to sell to our staff 7th generation iPads came in at $50, and staff will be eligible to buy up to 3 of those in this offering, as well as our staff MacBooks are eligible for the obsolete program. This is the first year of the MacBook Airs, M1 chip, and those came in at $200, and staff will have an opportunity to buy one of those this coming year. Any questions?
Hearing none.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the strategic plan monthly update.
Yeah, nothing other than what we've updated the document. I do want to gently remind the board, as consistent with past years, we're going to provide a year-end update. I would say this might be the most productive year we've had since I've been in the position, just in a lot of ways. We'll talk more about it, but we're making very good progress. We'll have a year-end update, talk about some student outcomes and accomplishments, and then kind of what our focus will be for next year. That will be probably in the May-June timeframe. So just gentle reminder.
Thank you for that. All right, hearing no questions on the strategic plan update, we will now go review contracts less than 1,000. There was nothing to report there, which will take us to public comment. As always, members of the public will participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments are accepted up until noon on the day of the regularly scheduled meeting, and the public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment is provided to all board members in written form, and a link to the electronic public comment is online. We did not have any electronic public comment, and we now no longer have public. So hearing no public comment at this point, I will turn it over to Dr. Mendoza for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. As has happened the past, I think, 2 years, we're pleased to announce that District 116 has submitted 8 Educator of the Year nominations to the Lake County Regional Office of Ed. Our 2025 nominees include, and I do want to say it's different than the first year where we could nominate like 4 people for one category. They've kind of narrowed it. So that's why you're seeing less nomination names. Rhonda Heatherly, Project Lead the Way at Indian Hill at the elementary school. Laura Abundes, Social Studies teacher and department chair, John T. McGee Middle School. I call her Danny. Danielle Navarro, Spanish teacher and department chair at the high school. Nick Miller, ENL teacher at Round Lake High School in the diverse learner teacher category. Our very own Elizabeth Damp, director of professional learning in the school administrator category. Victoria Morris, school psychologist, Round Lake Middle, the student support personnel category. Alberto Gomez, information systems and services specialist in the tech department for educational service personnel. And Marina Zamudio, English teacher, Round Lake High School, early career educator. Additionally, each year the Regional Office of Education chooses a specific category of staff to recognize, and each district is invited to select their representative. This year, Lake County will be recognizing mental health professionals. District 116, the selection committee selected Carolina Herrera, social worker at Round Lake High School, for this special recognition. The awards banquet is scheduled for Wednesday, May 7th, 5 p.m. at the Lake County Fairgrounds. We look forward to recognizing our staff at this very special event. On Tuesday, March 4th, the Illinois State Board approved without reservation our 3 college and career pathway endorsement applications. Again, thank you to Ms. Crone for leading these efforts. Our district is certified to issue endorsements in medical assisting, culinary arts, and graphic communication. We are proud to offer students these value opportunities to gain industry-recognized credentials and hands-on experience in high-demand career fields. This endorsement signifies our commitment to preparing students for success beyond high school, whether they choose to enter the workforce directly or continue their education. And last but certainly not least, below our recently received donations, we are notifying the board in compliance with board policy. A thank you letter will be sent from the district to each donor. Mendoza Grocery 2 to John T. McGee donated food items. And Management Research Services at Murphy donated a $1,000 check. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza? Hearing none, we will now go to the Finance Committee update.
Thank you. Yes, Finance Committee met earlier this evening. We did have quite a large agenda. You already heard regarding the fiscal year 26 budget assumptions. And then just we'd like to extend a thank you to Dr. Mendoza and the administration team for giving us full insight into positions as we move forward with a new fiscal year. You'll see later on the agenda that'll come before the board is the Round Lake High School prom DJ. So I'll speak to that when that comes up. Embrace Medicaid fee for service contract. This will be, it's through Embrace. It's a Medicaid fee for service billing and reimbursement software. This will be for our social work team to log those minutes for those students for that reimbursement. This will be a new program. I think this will give us better insight, being able to make sure those minutes are being logged. This will give Dr. Apgar and his team better visibility and better ability to monitor that service. That will come forward at the next board meeting, which is April 14th. Independent contractor agreement with Linnell Collins. That is later on the agenda. I'll be happy to speak to that when that comes up as well. Also later on the agenda is the National Science Teacher Association Professional Development Contract. I'll speak to that when that comes up. Next on the finance agenda is the Red Rover, I'm not repeating it for a reason, Red Rover Technologies contract. I know, sorry, that's really hard, right? It's an old child's game. This is the software that Dr. Schuth bought previously. This would replace Frontline in our time management system. So again, the questions, just as we proposed when that was first, is making sure those postings are out there and available for prospective teachers or staff that we would want to bring into the district. That integration and then that export from K-12 Spot, that exact website, into Red Rover, just that implementation and integration between the two, which Dr. Schuth has, they provided great detail in making sure, if supported by the board, be a smooth implementation. Red Rover seems to be very responsive. They have very good support for this implementation. And again, just wanting to make sure as if we pivot towards away from the K-12 job spot, what that would look like, making sure the integration into our website for people, application process, how that'll look. So they have talk and address those. Later on our agenda, Parent Square, and I know that was also brought previously to the community engagement, so that'll be on the agenda a little later this evening. We also had 22 Vets Network Equipment and Installation Reorganization Services E-rate program that came by Mr. Kozak. This will come to the April 14th board meeting. This is for Indian Hill and the high school. This is specifically, again, reorganization and kind of cleanup of those. We are adding upgrades in the stadium. When we built the stadium, we put on the home side, we did not put them on the visitor side just to make sure we hit all those kind of dead spots in the stadium. Not that there's been a huge problem, but with this upgrade, we're putting it on the visitor side as well for that Wi-Fi. That will come April 14th board meeting. Again, this is part of E-rate, where 85% of that will be covered, with the final cost for us will be $11,686. Next, continuing with the E-rate program is Comcast Internet Service at the Welcome Center. I know this has come about yearly, but we're doing this yearly because, again, we know Cedar Lake Road is going to be rerouted, so we don't want to do a multi-year at the Welcome Center, not knowing, that time frame with that. So that will come forward again. Next is AT&T Mobility Bus Wi-Fi service agreement. Again, this is part of the E-rate program. If you recall, we added Wi-Fi to our buses for our students to be able to use their iPad or devices, whether going to an event, home from school. So this is this contract. We did ask, came through finance. If you recall, again, the board had passed adding Traversa. That's the new busing app software, and they're going to put devices on the buses, kind of like an iPad where they get GPS and they would see those students. We just wanted to make sure, was there anything additional we needed to provide, how that Wi-Fi will work between those devices from Traversa and then what is on our buses. Mr. Kozak confirmed they're two separate. Ours is AT&T, Traversa uses Verizon, and there will be no issues with the two. Continuing with E-rate is CDW Palo Alto Firewall subscription license agreement. Again, this is through the E-rate. Again, this would come forward, on the next board meeting of April 14th. The next large item is Apple four-year lease. This is on the agenda later as well. I know Mr. Kozak will speak to that, and now, again, we'll go over some of those items that we brought forward. Next is the property tax relief grant that will come forward. This was just really discussion. Of course, we didn't apply last year. We will apply for this next current cycle, so that hopefully we will receive that. And then, as we did in the last finance, it's kind of a rinse and repeat as we move forward with fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27, electing the budget officer, preparer, treasurer appointment, and surety bonds for the school treasurer. And then last we had, which is personal inventory and staffing, which was really a repeat of what was going on in the budget assumptions as we spoke to those positions that we are adding, those reductions, some cost neutral savings and half a position here into a full position there. So that really was just a repeat of that from the budget assumptions. And that covers all the finance, unless Mr. DeVera, or any questions?
Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that'll take us to approval of open meeting minutes.
All right, I need a motion to approve the March 10th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Abstain.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $1,216,417.65. The previous motions report for $138,674.28. The February 2025 Treasurer's Report, the February 2025 P-Card Report, and the March 17th, 2025 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Hearing no conversation, roll call please.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to curriculum adoptions, and I believe that's Dr. Stefan.
As you recall, I was at our last meeting and went over our request for new curriculum within the high school math department, also middle school math, as well as the Spanish language arts for our dual language roll-up in 6th grade. And social studies middle school. Sorry, Miss Crone, almost forgot. But you can see here on the chart that we've mapped out the cost of these curriculum adoptions. As T mentioned, we were able to cover a significant amount of those costs through our IL Empower grant funds.
So this was brought to finance at the previous February meeting. and reviewed with Dr. Steffen and her staff. And again, a lot of it was cost driven, but as Dr. Steffen mentioned, this has been covered by grants. So that is really good news because we weren't quite sure if some of this would be covered by grants. So that's really good news. And look forward to new curriculum that really touches a lot within the district. So it's going to be a big shift and big movement, this next curriculum. So really excited to hear how our students will ingest all this.
Yeah, and this is significant for middle school. Currently in middle school, 2 of our grade levels do have new science curriculum, but that is actually a free resource. So we haven't brought that here, but we have that in 2 grade levels. And next year they will also really, all of the core classes will have a curriculum outside of our ELA. So we're excited to see how that will support things and achievement at middle school.
And then of course, finance had asked, that data that comes back to the board so that we can see how this is being implemented and how the students are taking to this curriculum and what that feeds back to us and to the students.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely include information as we bring back any of our student achievement data. We'll definitely speak to the curriculum.
Great.
Any additional questions from the board? Hearing
Right.
none.
I need a motion to approve entering into a partnership with the vendors as outlined in the memo for a total dollar amount of $789,904.77.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Larson. Hearing no conversation, roll call please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to new business, and first up on that is our Parent Square agreement conversation.
Good evening. The Communications Department is asking the board to approve a 3-year contract with Parent Square, which would replace Remind as our communications tool for secondary schools. I am making this recommendation for 2 key reasons. We have heard from Parent Square representatives that Remind is on the way out and we don't have a timeline, and there are teacher concerns about the functionality of Remind. I'm presenting this recommendation after gathering feedback from department chairs, athletic coaches, and activity sponsors, as well as the athletics and fine arts directors, who all received live demos and the opportunity to try out the site through a demonstration link. It's also my recommendation that we use one communications platform at the secondary level. We use Remind currently, or we used to use Remind currently for athletics. I'm recommending we completely remove Remind and move to Parent Square. I'd also like to include that I gathered feedback from 3 area districts who expressed satisfaction with Parent Square as a communications tool. At the 3-year rate, we would be locked in at a 3% year-over-year increase with a one-time onboarding cost of $1,752, and a 1-year contract could have a 5% or higher increase. There was also a question at the Finance Committee about a termination clause. This termination clause allows us to terminate only for breach of contract or if we don't have the funds available. Any questions?
So if I can add, as Ms. LeBlanc mentioned, this was on finance. We just asked about termination clause. It is a 3-year contract. It's a brand new platform into the district, so we always like to have some kind of out if it doesn't work out for whatever reason. However, in their presentation, they seem very confident in the platform and in the program. There is a link out there to view the platform. It works like Dojo that we use for our elementary, if anyone's used Dojo. And I know they presented it, you guys have presented Dojo to the board. So it works very similar to that. So it would be a better platform for the families and staff going forward. The only other question we asked in reviewing the contract, the fees or the costs that are in there, it is based on a per student fee. So it is based on our current enrollment. Of course, we're using the old projections that we have. We are in the middle of doing a new enrollment projection study, but we anticipate not much of a variance there. And that's what came out of finance. And I don't know if community engagement wanted to add anything as well, since
Just that we supported it, but you did well. Thank you.
That's all we have for that.
Hearing no additional questions, I think we have a,
All right, I need a motion to approve a 3-year agreement with Parent Square in the amount of $17,252.00.
So moved.
Second.
motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Ms. Klingler.
Can I add something I just remembered that we brought up? The SOPs for this is we learned with Dojo, we didn't have any in place prior. So we did ask to make sure that we have those in place with this prior to that implementation.
Very well.
I just wanted to bring that up. My apologies.
Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is our 2025 high school prom DJ, Ms. Cacciatore.
Good evening. What we are asking, the administration is respectfully asking the Board of Education to review and support the contract for the 2025 prom DJ to be SNP, Spin and Play Productions for the upcoming prom.
So this was at finance. This is a new DJ. I forgot the old DJ's name. What was it?
DJ Fly Tie?
Fly Tie.
Oh, that's right.
Apparently he is no longer Fly, so we're going with Spin and Play. But again, it's just making sure that, again, it's an outside venue. Him coming, I'm sorry. Just making sure you're using the venue that they are acceptant of us bringing in, and the contract is fine. So just wanted you all to know it's a new DJ. All right, I need a motion to approve the contract to have Spin and Play Productions work at the 2025 RLHS prom in the amount of $1,895.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is the National Science Teacher Association Professional Development Contracts.
Good evening. Tonight, I respectfully request the Board of Education review and approve an agreement with the National Science Teachers Association for professional development services for middle and high school science teachers in the amount of $8,400. Trainings will occur during regularly scheduled PLC time to maximize professional development activities without having an impact on student learning. There will be an additional half-day training for all biology teachers and a half-day training for 8th grade science teachers on May 8th to support Open SciEd implementation for next school year. These PD activities ensure our teaching staff are supported in providing high quality instruction for our students.
And this contract was reviewed at the Finance Committee earlier, and everything is good. And again, appreciate that. In the consideration memo, it lists that these are happening during PLC time, so there's no interruption to class time.
Hearing no additional conversation from the board or questions,
I need a motion to approve the National Science Teacher Association Professional Development Contract in the amount of $8,400.
So moved. Second.
motion by Ms. Larson, second by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to Apple 4-year lease for 25-28 and Mr. Kozik.
Good evening again. Consistent with previous practice, the technology department partnered with teaching and learning and our business office to determine the quantity and models for this year's Apple purchase and subsequent lease. On March 4th, Apple announced their newest 11th generation iPad at the same price point as its predecessor. As a result, we will be purchasing the 11th generation iPad for both incoming students as well as staff, along with all the necessary support, professional development, and accessories needed for the One to Wonder program. In addition, on March 5th, less than 2 weeks ago, Apple announced their latest MacBook Air at a lower price point, $100 less per device than the previous model. By purchasing MacBooks for staff refresh at this time, we will save a total of $35,000 on that purchase. Both of these purchases are incorporated into the 4-year lease agreement for your review and approval this evening.
Any questions from the board? And finance?
Thank you. So this was reviewed at the Finance Committee meeting earlier. Again, this is a great contract. It is at 0%, which is great. Love 0%. And then just a few questions we asked is just making sure those devices include the protection,
The case?
The case,
and
thank
the Apple
you.
Care warranty, both are included. It's a bundle
Yes.
purchase through Apple.
Yeah, making sure those are included in this lease, and of course they are. Just, of course, wanting to make sure that any accidents happen. Just want to make sure those devices are covered as best as we can.
Hearing no additional conversation?
Right, I need a motion to approve the 4-year 0% interest rate with Apple Inc. and authorize administration to execute all required documents in the amount of $1,604,600.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, second by, I'm giving it to Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up is Dr. Apgar.
Good evening. In September, the Board of Education approved an independent contract agreement with Ms. Linnell Collins to manage outplaced students. And at that time, that contract was not to exceed 50 days or $10,900. So Ms. Collins has met those 50 days. So I'm here tonight to request the board approve an additional independent contractor agreement for Ms. Collins to finish out the school year. So this contract would run from this evening through June 30th and would only be for the remainder of this school year. And as Ms. Amsel indicated, we are looking to add an administrator at the transition center and to manage out-of-district placement beyond this summer.
And so again, this was at finance. So as Dr. Apgar mentioned, it's one position rolling up from the two. Ms. Collins would just be there for outplacement only, just handling that. So it's just really more administrative for, I keep wanting to say Dr. Collins, Ms. Collins. And that's again, just only to finish the school year.
Just for my clarification, the original approval that we did was the not to exceed 50 half days, which got us to here, but we're doing the same 50 half days to cover what should be 2.5 months.
Yes, it's a very busy season given all of the annual reviews. So we anticipate that there will be additional days. And I didn't want to have to come back to the board to ask for another contract. So we should be able to cover what we need with 50 half days.
Yeah, and I think between now and the end of the year is the busiest time in special education with annual reviews, MDC meetings, end of the year PPSs. So we appreciate not having to come back again.
No, definitely. I guess my only follow-up question to that is, did we run into more anticipated work that we ran out of the original allocation? Did we miss the timing on that original allocation?
I think when we originally did this contract, in working with Ms. Kibbins or Dr. Kibbins at the time, she said, let's do 50 days and keep it at that, not to exceed 50 days. So that's why we did 50 at that time. We also weren't sure at that time if maybe we would have been able to hire someone for that position, but then we weren't able to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get. I know the previous conversation with Dr. Kibbins, and we were really hoping to hire somebody, and then that's why they also revised that position as well, because it's been so hard to fill.
Thank you. Hearing no additional conversation.
Need a motion to approve entering into an independent contract agreement with Miss Linnell Collins to manage the out-of-district placement process in the amount of $10,900.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And I think next up is Mr. Schuth with the resolution.
We're just looking for a resolution to approve the honorable dismissal of teachers as part of the annual RIF cycle. I know that we don't have that every single year, but every year we have to consider that. And this year we had to, based on staffing, decrease by 2 staff members. So they are listed in the information, and the requirements are that you read the resolution with their names as a verbal recital.
Any questions from the board? Finance want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, this was, again, reviewed at the Finance Committee. Again, as you heard in the budget assumptions, there was teachers listed as dismissed. Again, just making sure still that academic needs are still met for all students.
Hearing no additional conversation.
Right, I need a motion to approve the resolution for the honorable dismissal of teachers. I have to read names. Krista Venturone. Trying not to butcher anybody's name. And then Taylor Piggott.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Regrettably, yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we're asking for a resolution for the dismissal of a first and third year probationary teacher for reasons other than reduction in force. They were non-renewed from their contracts this year. Again,
Any
these
comment?
have to be read with verbal recital.
Any questions from the board?
I need a motion to approve the resolution of dismissal of first and third year probationary teachers for reasons other than reduction in force for Michael Rasmussen, Sharissa Tobias,
So
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to positive occurrences. I'll get started. The biggest positive occurrence is what we saw earlier this evening. The high school, middle school, seeing the excellence that we have inside the district, whether it's at any of our schools, is absolutely tremendous and very uplifting. Seeing the middle school, the high school wrestlers, the medalists, and then on top of that, it's rolling out. I know it's gonna, I already started seeing, I think the academic all conference announcements for fall and winter sports are starting to dribble out now, which is going to be absolutely amazing. In addition, for the board, just as a reminder, we've got a lot of upcoming advocacy opportunities and education opportunities. The St. Louis Safety Conference in June, the EdRed Springfield April trip, then again the COSBA Federal Advocacy in September as well. And I know we've gotten emails on that. Please make sure you speak with Yanira in regards to what you can and what you can make. Definitely, that's what we're here to do, is to advocate for our community at all levels, whether state, local, or federal. And then I've got more on the list, but I'll let you guys pass it around until you.
I was pretty delighted to have our board honored again. It was really flattering, and I think a lot of we have, our vested interests in doing well for our community, but we just have a really good admin staff too that helps us to get to that. So shout out to you guys too.
Last week I got to go to the All District Choir Festival. It was again fantastic, and I just want to thank all of the administrators who were there and Dr. Mendoza, and you all are there. You show up for our kids. You volunteer to help with the boosters, and as a board member, that makes me so proud. But as a parent, it brings me such joy to see how invested you are in our students, and it does really mean a lot to parents. And that's it.
I was just gonna say, I know next week is spring break, so wishing all our families, students, and community a safe and hopefully great weather spring break.
I'll also throw out there, just it was touched on in Dr. Mendoza's, but the Lake County ROE Educator of the Year nominees. Definitely thank you for their hard work and their amazing work for the community and for our students. Since our next meeting is April 14th, there's a lot of things between now and then. Just as a reminder, you've got spring break, as Ms. Negrete McGinley said, but also that includes our Round Lake music trip to Disney. All of us on the boards are going to Atlanta for either the COSBA National Conference or the NSBA National Conference. Facility planning meetings are coming up for the board as well. Our students will be diving into ACTs coming up here in a few weeks after they get out of spring break. And then a couple big ones that I want to keep the community on. World Language Night, April 3rd. Our Education Foundation has their daddy-daughter dance on April 4th. And our Talent Expo will be on April 9th. And all of that is before our next meeting on April 14th.
And don't forget to vote.
All right. Hearing nothing else on that, we'll next step into future agenda items. All right. Hearing none on that, let us go to approval of closed session minutes reviewed in prior meetings.
I need a motion to approve the closed session minutes of the February 24th, 2025 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negrete Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yep.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the February 25th, 2025 special board meeting minutes from hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Tavera. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Abstain.
Mrs. Larson,
Abstain.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will take us to needing a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following. Closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21, and employment matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries. That will take us to closed session. For those online, we will go to pause. We will be coming back out of closed and return to open in order to have action resulting from closed session. So everyone hold tight on that, and we will see you soon. Thank you. All right, we are back in open at 9:41 p.m. And from that, we do have action resulting from closed session.
I need a motion for the resolution to approve the dismissal of educational support personnel employee Rafael Nunez.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Hearing no conversation, roll call please.
Yes. Sorry. Miss Lee. Yes. Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Mr. Jewett.
Yeah.
Mr. Devera.
Yes.
Mrs. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve closed session minutes of the March 10th, 2025 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Devera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Or Lee, whoever, whichever one wants it. Roll call please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes.
Mr. Devera.
Yes.
Mrs. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Jewett.
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to adjournment at 9:42 p.m. Thank you all. And our next meeting will be on April the 14th.